Every year, exposure to harmful substances is one of the leading causes of days away from work cases. But it doesn't have to be that way. Workplace safety has always been a group effort, which is why it's so important that everyone is informed about the hazardous materials in their work environment. The more you know about the harmful substances you can encounter and their hazards, the more prepared you can be, and the faster you can react to emergencies. In 1983, OSHA established the Hazard Communication Standard, HAZCOM for short, for this exact reason. It gave workers the right to know about any potentially hazardous materials they could encounter in their workplace, and ensures that they have the information they need to handle them safely. Then in 2024, OSHA published an update to the HAZCOM Standard, referred to as the Employee's Right to Understand rule. This final rule protects workers even further by increasing the amount of information that they have access to, as well as improving the quality of the information that they receive, particularly regarding labeling, hazard classification, and safety data sheets. In this program, we'll discuss the requirements in the HAZCOM Standard, the hazards that are associated with different types of materials, and how you can protect yourself and your coworkers from these hazards. The Hazard Communication Standard was established by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, in 1983, also known as the HAZCOM Standard. This regulation gave employees a legal right to know about any hazardous materials, hazmats, that they could encounter in their workplace. It has been updated several times over the years to clear up areas of confusion, expand its protections, and stay up to date with developments in the industry. The most recent update in 2024 was the final rule. Along with all of its updates, the standard requires employers and hazmat suppliers to provide the people who handle hazardous chemicals with complete information on how to work with them safely. To do this, the standard established three main sources of hazmat information: safety data sheets, hazmat container labels, and a company's written hazard communication program. Safety data sheets, SDSs, are provided by hazmat suppliers for each of the hazardous materials they produce. A safety data sheet tells you the material's names and quantities, the company that manufactured it, the hazards that are associated with it, and the precautions you should take when handling it. SDSs should also discuss the first aid that should be given to someone who has been exposed to the material and how to respond to a spill. Your facility keeps its SDSs in a central location so you can refer to them whenever you need information on the hazmats you work with. Both the information on SDSs and how it is presented are standardized according to the UN's Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, or GHS. The second source of information about a hazmat is its container label. Under HAZCOM, hazardous materials labels must follow the GHS standards as well. However, a company's in-house generated hazmat labels do not have to follow the GHS format, but they do have to display all the information that the system requires. The third source of information about hazardous chemicals is a company's written hazard communication program. This document is a blueprint for how a facility complies with OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard. A hazard communication program will describe what hazmats are present on site, where they are located, how they are labeled, where their SDSs are kept, how employees will be trained in hazmat safety, and anything else an employee needs to know to work with the materials safely. In spite of all the precautions that we take to handle hazardous materials safely, accidents can still happen. And a hazmat spill or unplanned release could result in people being exposed to a very dangerous substance. To understand how this could affect you, it helps to know a little more about how exposure works. Any health effects that result from a hazmat spill or leak will depend largely on the dose and duration of the exposure. Dose is the amount of the substance you're exposed to. As a rule of thumb, the larger the dose, the more serious your reaction will be. Duration is the period of time that you're exposed to the substance. In most cases, a short-term exposure won't cause serious health problems, although some materials can cause sudden or acute effects, such as a rash or a burn. On the other hand, long-term exposure to a hazardous material is likely to cause long-term health effects. So how can you prevent exposure to hazardous materials? First, it's important to understand how a substance can get into your body. These are called routes of entry, and there are 3 of them: skin contact, inhalation, and ingestion. While all materials can be absorbed through skin contact to some extent, liquids are absorbed most easily. Inhalation occurs when you breathe in hazardous dusts, mists, fumes, vapors, or gases. And ingestion occurs when you swallow a substance. While ingestion may seem unlikely to happen by mistake, remember, you could accidentally transfer a hazardous material that is on your hands, arms, or face to your mouth. And you could eat food that has been contaminated as well. If you are exposed to a hazmat, there are procedures that you can follow to reduce its severity and possibly prevent injury. If the material gets onto your skin or into your eyes, it should immediately be flushed with running water for at least 15 minutes. Many facilities are equipped with safety showers and eye wash stations for just this purpose. So make sure you know where they are located in your facility and how to use them. If you begin to cough or have difficulty breathing while working with a hazmat, get away from the material and into fresh air immediately. If you swallow a hazmat, it's important to consult the material's SDS before taking any action. Doing the wrong thing, even with the best of intentions, could make the situation much worse. For instance, some materials' SDSs will tell you to dilute the hazmat by drinking a lot of water, but this may just intensify the effect of other materials. In general, you should always check a hazmat's SDS before you start to work with it to determine what the material's hazards are, how you should respond to an exposure, and whether emergency medical assistance will be required if you are exposed. To help you work with hazardous materials safely, OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard groups hazmats into categories. These are based on the types of hazards that are associated with the materials and the precautions that you should take when working with them. Three of these groups that can be found in many facilities are toxins, corrosives, and irritants. Toxic substances affect the tissues and organs of the body and disrupt important physical processes. People who are exposed to them can be injured, get sick, even die. Toxic chemicals that are used in a number of industrial processes include formaldehyde, ethylbenzene, and hydrogen sulfide. Some of the pigments and solvents contained in the paints that are applied to manufactured goods can be toxic as well. So is the turpentine that is often used for cleanup afterward. Respirable crystalline silica is a toxic material that is used for sandblasting and in making glass, ceramics, and asphalt shingles. Silica dust can also be created when stone, cement, or concrete is cut or polished during construction or remodeling activities. Another toxin you could encounter in your facility is asbestos. While it isn't used in many situations today, it was used in many older buildings before its hazards were fully understood. And it can be found in insulation, pipe coverings, wallboard, and even some flooring products. Two other groups of hazmats that you can find in many environments are corrosives and irritants. Corrosives can cause serious, even permanent damage if they come into contact with your skin or eyes. Most of the acids and bases that are used in industrial processes are corrosive, including nitric and sulfuric acid, caustic potash, and caustic soda. Bleach, sodium hypochlorite, and the solvent toluene are corrosive as well. Symptoms of exposure to corrosives can include redness and swelling of the skin, burns, and blisters. Irritants that you might encounter in your facility include acetone, a thinner and solvent, ethylene oxide, a reagent used in some chemical processes, and methylene chloride, also known as dichloromethane or DCM, which is often used for cleaning, degreasing, and stripping. Exposure to any of these types of irritants can cause temporary inflammation of the skin, as well as swelling at the point of contact. Some substances can be especially hazardous because the first symptoms of exposure might not appear until long after the exposure occurs. And by that time, the damage has already been done. Carcinogens and radioactive materials both fall into that category. Carcinogens are substances that are known or thought to cause cancer. Industrial carcinogens include ethylene oxide, a chemical reagent, and methylene chloride, also known as dichloromethane or DCM. These are also irritants, which can sometimes provide an early warning of exposure. Used in sandblasting and the manufacture of certain masonry products, respirable crystalline silica is another common industrial carcinogen, which can also be toxic. This hazardous silica dust can also be created by cutting, grinding, or polishing materials such as stone, cement, or concrete during manufacturing operations, or on site when construction or remodeling activities are taking place. The asbestos that was used in the construction of many older buildings is also a carcinogen as well as a toxin. Radioactive materials are another group of substances that can cause serious health problems. They emit rays and particles that can damage the cells and tissues of living things, which can result in cancer. These substances may seem exotic, but they are used in some industrial settings. For example, industrial radiography is a process that uses X-rays and gamma rays to locate flaws in some manufactured materials. And iridium-192 and cobalt-60 are two radioactive substances that are often used to generate these rays. While the presence of radioactive materials is unusual in most facilities, if they do exist where you work, OSHA's HAZCOM Standard and its Final Rule Update require your company's hazard communication program to provide you with complete information on how to handle them safely. Many of the substances that are covered by OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard are hazardous because they can injure or cause illness in people who are exposed to them directly. But with flammables, combustibles, and explosives, the danger chiefly lies in their potential secondary effects, fires and explosions. While flammables and combustibles are both materials that can burn, what makes them different from each other is their flash point, the temperature at which a substance releases vapors that can ignite. Flammables, like gasoline, have a flash point of less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Combustibles, such as kerosene, have a flash point between 100 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. In general, combustibles are safer than flammables because they normally have to be heated up before they can burn. Industrial chemicals such as formaldehyde, ethylene oxide, ethylbenzene, and hydrogen sulfide are all flammable. So are solvents such as toluene and turpentine, and gases such as hydrogen, propane, and acetylene. Combustibles such as fuel oil, grease, and other petroleum products can often be encountered in general industry as well. And many paints, adhesives, waxes, and polishes can contain combustible ingredients too. Flammable gases such as hydrogen, propane, and acetylene come with their own unique sets of hazards. They are easily ignited under normal conditions and can cause explosions. Even if they don't catch fire, like many gases, they can drive oxygen out of confined spaces, making it difficult to breathe. Explosives are another hazmat group that presents an imminent danger. OSHA describes them as any chemical compound, mixture, or device that is primarily intended to function by exploding. They can include dynamite, pellet powders, blasting caps, fuse lighters, and more. Explosives release gas, pressure, and heat. This typically occurs when they are exposed to shock, pressure, or high temperatures. So it's important to know when the materials you're dealing with are sensitive to certain conditions, as well as know how to keep them contained. You should also make sure that you understand how to properly handle and store any explosives that you will be working with before you use them. For example, picric acid is a chemical sometimes used in the production of electric batteries and is considered a dangerous explosive when it's dry, so you need to store it wet. You should also keep it in a cool, dry, and well-ventilated area away from any sources of heat as well. When discussing fire and explosion hazards, it's also important to mention oxidizers. Unlike flammables and combustibles, substances that are oxidizers don't really burn. But they do make it easier for other things to burn. Common industrial oxidizers include nitric acid, perchloric acid, and hydrogen peroxide. Materials like these will also make fires burn more intensely and can even cause some materials to ignite spontaneously. OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard and its final rule update spell out the information you are entitled to about the precautions that you should take to handle hazardous materials safely, and what you may need to do to understand that information. In many cases, this will involve wearing some type of personal protective equipment, PPE, as well as making sure that any hazardous materials in your facility are stored properly. What PPE you should wear depends on the material that you're working with and the likely routes of entry that it can take into your body. Before handling any hazmat, you should check its SDS or your company's written hazard communication program to find out what type of protective equipment, if any, you should put on to work with it. You generally don't want to get a hazardous material on you, so some type of PPE is usually required to prevent a hazmat from coming into contact with your skin. Depending on the material that you're handling, this could range from gloves to an apron or even a full-body chem suit. Since our eyes are particularly vulnerable to exposure from chemical splashes, eye protection should always be worn when handling liquid hazmats. Remember, safety glasses cannot adequately guard against splashes. Instead, you should wear goggles. They create a tight seal against your face that helps to keep hazardous liquids out. For especially hazardous chemicals, you may need to wear a face shield over your goggles as well. When you're working with hazardous gases and other hazmats that give off fumes, vapors, or dusts, the primary route of entry will be inhalation. That is, breathing the material into your lungs. In these situations, you should wear a respirator. There are several types of respirators and different cartridges that can be used with them as well. Again, check the chemical's SDS to find the right respirator for the job that you're doing. How a hazmat is stored is also very important. First, you need to pay attention to the conditions in the storage area itself. If they are not set up for the chemical you're using, it can lead to spills, exposures, and possibly much worse. Some materials such as flammables or combustibles are sensitive to temperature. So if they are stored where it's hot, they could catch fire or even explode. Flammables or combustibles should also be stored separately from oxidizers, which can make it easier for these materials to ignite and make fires burn more intensely. Compressed gas cylinders and materials that can emit hazardous vapors or fumes should be stored in areas that are well ventilated, as well as away from excessive heat, which can cause the cylinders to pop their valves or even burst. Some hazmats can even react with water. Others are sensitive to light, still others to shock. So if you ever have questions about how to store a hazmat safely, consult its safety data sheets and your company's written hazard communication program. or sewers. This can result in the material not only contaminating the surrounding area, but being carried into the local watershed as well. Once a spill has been contained, the material will usually be soaked up using sorbents and blankets that help neutralize it. But some substances can require special cleanup precautions. For example, to prevent a fire, only non-sparking tools should be used when cleaning up substances that are flammable. Arrangements also have to be made to dispose of any cleanup residue properly. Remember, hazardous chemicals are classified as regulated waste and must be removed by licensed waste handling companies for special processing and disposal. Exposure to hazardous materials can lead to severe long-term injuries and illnesses. That's why it's important for everyone to have all of the information that is necessary to work with hazmat safely. Let's review. OSHA's HAZCOM Standard discusses what employees have the right to know about hazardous materials they can encounter in their facility and how to work with them safely. OSHA's 2024 edition of The Final Rule to the Standard gives you the right to better understand the hazardous materials that you could encounter and what your rights to protection are. Every workplace with hazardous materials must have a hazard communication program in place that provides employees with information about handling the hazardous substances in their facilities. One thing that HAZCOM programs discuss is the personal protective equipment that workers should wear when they're handling or working near hazardous materials. It's also important for employees to know the proper storage practices and emergency response procedures for the hazmats they can encounter in their environment. Safety data sheets and container labels are both vital sources of information about the chemicals that you work with. When you know about the hazardous substances that you can encounter in your facility and understand the correct and safe ways to handle them, you can help ensure that you, your coworkers, and the surrounding community are kept safe from hazmats every day.